4:23, guys. It's an early one, and we're going fishing. All right, so in a little bit of a conundrum here. So plan was to go fishing real early. Not too far of a drive to the California Delta. Actually, it was going to Big Break, probably the closest launch to where I'm coming from. 25 minutes. You can see 4:53 now. And I guess things have changed there because it is not open. Sign says it's open 24/7, but members only, and 6 a.m. to the public. Guess I got an hour to kill, guys. Not the start I was hoping for. I was really hoping to get out there early because actually there was a method to the madness today. The tide was going to be high at 5 o'clock in this particular area and dropping all the way to 12. And it is an area where the tide, when it goes all the way down, it's really hard to navigate even in a kayak. Plus the heat, and then I think the wind does end up picking up pretty good. Though it does look like it's moving a little more than I thought right now here. Yeah, either way, I guess I'm hanging out in a parking lot. Hanging out here for about another hour. I guess then we'll go fishing. All right, 5:55. That was a long hour, guys. Oh my gosh. It's like worse than waiting for first cast. I'm so bored looking at my phone. I mean, you only can look at your phone for so long, but I even stopped at a Starbucks. Haven't had Starbucks in like 7 years. Got a second cup of Joe. The gate is open. Tide is still pretty high. Still windy. She's blowing. All right, we're in business. Alright guys, well, 6:15, I'm just gonna get started. Man, oh man, the wind is way worse than what was advertised on the forecast. That main channel out there, or the area that I want to get out to really to fish and anticipated spending most of my day, it is ripping out there. Not safe for sure. So unless this wind dies down significantly, we might be kind of cornered in this little section right here, which is definitely not ideal. Feels like the wrong species, folks. Yeah, it might be taco size. Ready to go. I wonder if it chased it out from the toolies or if they're maybe sitting out a little bit. Striper love? Right now it says that the wind is 6 and the gusts are 10. It just feels like double that, you know? Gosh. Oh man, that was cool. I think it was a striper. Working this magic swimmer subsurface. Had some like tiny ones. Tiny bites eat the chatter and the cull shad, just no takers. So I'm thinking there's maybe some smaller ones in the area. Ooh, had a fish. Actually, you're a fish. You're not a bad one by any means. checking some of these little points right here. Some cleaner bottom, especially when there's a strong breeze and tide moving. They can stack up and yeah, there's some bites there. Eh? That's the thing. There could be some good ones with these small ones too. You know, just never know. Well, the wind actually may be calming down just a touch. I know it's hard to see, but out in the distance it's bad. But we might be able to keep creeping our way out there. Oh, it kind of feels like a swim jig. Getting a little bigger. Honestly, if the wind just changed directions, it's coming right from the west. If it just changed direction, we'd be fine. Just these waves I feel like you're surfing right now. Okay. As long as we keep getting a little bigger, we'll be on the right track. Kind of surprised we got a punch fish. Tide's still pretty high. Really wouldn't have thought punching would be a thing until the tide got lower. I don't know though. Who knows? That was a bluegill. Certainly the same size. A couple punch bites, huh? Interesting. Alright, there's fish here. That one hit it right at the top. It's kind of banging it against the underside of the roof of these canopies. One came up and got it. Man, with this high tide this morning, I thought these fish would be on the outside of these islands, on the rims. Maybe they were, and we just missed them, but getting some fish now inside, punching, which, who knows, could just be an area location thing too. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a pattern. That's cool. Since I banged it up against the roof. If I lost that fish, like I always say, that would have been, man, that one would have been like a 6-pounder if I lost it. Pull me back. Come on, stay on, stay on, stay on. That's a big one. Whoa. Dude, we just played tug of war and he won the first round. Oh my gosh. Imagine if I fell in the water. That was fun. Alright, so we fished all around this and now we're fishing the core, the gut. They're under the mats. That was a bite. Somebody touched it. Somebody touched it on the way down. How'd you not get the whole deal? this tide keeps dropping, one of the things I always think about is how will that position the fish. What I'm wondering right now is fish that we just punched right in the center of this island with that dropping tide gonna move out a little bit now or what? Might still be too early to say. But I can always do a quick little check with a drop shot. Missed him. Missed him. Son of a gun. Maybe under the mats. Hopefully I don't scare him doing this. Last time we had a punch bite going on. Again, I know these aren't giants, but man, it's fun. It's just a lot of fun to catch them like this. Big rod, big line, big weight. Got the new 65-pound no fade braid. So you know how your braided line usually fades to like that white off green color after a few trips out? It's the new P-line no fade braid where it's straight black. I know a lot of guys will take like a Sharpie or a permanent marker and just kind of go over that line to make it dark again. No fade braid, as it suggests, comes out black, stays black. The dark green is fine too. I think when you're punching this stuff, you're in like dark areas with shade, of course, and even when you're punching thick grass. But I do think when that braided line turns like that white color, that's when it becomes a little bit more visible to the fish. You won't get all the bites you potentially could get with that dark line. What's crazy is I know that fish we're catching, there's just so many more down there. I think sometimes you bust one out of there and the other ones kind of scatter and they're like, what the heck just happened? It's almost better sometimes to catch one or two out of a mat and then mark it for later, come back to and see if you can let those fish kind of rest and reset. Get another one to bite. It's just hard to do though on the Delta as well, because like these tides, these bite windows, they're not all day. So I am kind of picking everything apart as best I can and then moving on. Let's go check the other edge now. Oh, dude, giant. But still a sign, or at least a fish that showed that it was on the outside. So not a bad thing, technically. Ooh, yeah. There's a pile of them there, that would be cool. If they're gonna group up, now would be the time. Tide getting low, they gotta find those deeper holes or bury themselves in the grass. Weirdest thing, Delta, you think crawfish, bluegill eaters. Sometimes the best thing though is a purple worm. Why? I have no idea. He pulled the legs down. Little sucker. I thought he missed it, but he actually had the legs. sir. That was neato. Man, what started out with a pretty rough day, all the debacles and the weather and the wind and whatnot, it's actually turned out to be pretty good. Oh, that was cool. I saw him come get it right to the boat. The big one got it though. I think the other ones are tiny. Oh boy, look at the water. See those weeds popping up. Tide's getting low. 10:30. I can't forget that by 12 we're going to be on a low tide and there's potential to get stuck somewhere. More over here. Got it again. Dang, they really want the swim jig. I don't know. Can't believe I haven't been throwing it all these years out here on the Delta, especially when they're not eating the chatterbait or they're just following the moving stuff in. It just makes sense to throw a swim jig, keep it in that strike zone longer and give them an opportunity to eat it. Now you can see how low this tide is getting right now. You look at the graph, we're at 1.5 feet, and when we started in this area this morning, it was like 4 foot, so we've dropped like a solid 2+ feet. So I think the game plan now is just to head into these marinas, fish some man-made stuff, see if we can't pick up any bonus fish. And after that, that'll probably be it. One came out and got it. One under the ship. Not sure bigger. Definitely some craziness down there as far as structure. Lucky I didn't get broke off there. There you go. Not a half bad one right there. Yeah, we'll hit it on the fall. The old sailboat fish. Missed it completely. It's another little guy. Come on now. There we go. That one got it. Alright, a couple bonus fish at the end. I'll take it. Alrighty, guys, just about 1 o'clock. That is going to do it for our day out on the Delta. First off, can we just address right at the end, right on the ramp, that crawfish? Holy smokes, that is by far the biggest crawfish I've ever seen on the Delta, let alone anywhere. That thing was like a mini lobster. It's like as big as my hand. Holy smokes. But you know what? Interesting day. As always, try to keep it real with you guys and show you not just the fishing, but everything surrounding it. And today was no exception. Started out real early in the morning, taking off. Actually already had the truck loaded loaded up with all my stuff except the kayak and the rods. Game plan was to come here to Big Break. Haven't been here in a while. Usually the fish is pretty good in the summer, at least for some numbers. And unfortunately, around 5 o'clock or just shy of 5 o'clock when I arrived, there must be some new management and it was closed. It looks like 6 o'clock it opens. So I had about an hour to kill, sip my coffee, watch YouTube. Probably the same things you guys do when you're waiting for something. And really the point of getting here really early before sunrise was to take advantage of the tide today. We were getting a high tide right around 5 o'clock in the morning and I wanted to be here for that. But either way, we still got out on the water around 6:15. Tide was still high. The wind though, man, the wind was a little bit more, well, I should say a lot more gusty than I anticipated. Kind of stayed close to home where we launched for the first hour or so. Did pick up the old striper on a slobber knocker. Really nothing else. I had a few bumps and then one tried to eat the magic swimmer, but I think there were a lot of small striper in the system with that higher tide. A little while later, the wind actually seemed to kind of taper somewhat and the areas that I wanted to go to weren't as bad and definitely fishable. So made my way out there towards some Thule Islands. Tide was continuing to drop, pretty much junk fishing around. I think we caught one on the swim jig. You know, with a higher tide, figure these fish will set up around the outside of these islands. You can almost imagine them looking out into the open water, waiting for stuff to come by, bait fish, whatnot, and ambush that prey. And I think there were some there, but it really seemed like a lot of the fish were in the center of the islands. I thought it was surprising at first, but now it kind of makes sense because if you actually look at the tide from last night, you can see that the tide actually never had a really low tide. You get two tides during the day, a high and a low and a high and a low, and that high-low last night before this morning was pretty high overall. So I think a lot of those fish got into that island and were comfortable. And that's my guess as to why they were sucked in so far into the island. But no matter, found a little bit of a punch bite, so that was fun. Had a couple of really nice bites. One, I swear to God, I almost got pulled into the water. Definitely almost took a swim. Usually you set the hook into him and get some leverage, but that one I set the hook and he pulled back on me. So that was probably our big fish of the day. Fun fish on the punch. After that, ended up fishing those outside edges of the island, the canopies, now that the tide was really getting low. And I do feel like a lot of those fish out in the center of those things that you can never really reach on a high tide were starting to move out. And again, I think the wind helps position those fish even better. And yeah, just picked up a bunch on the drop shot. Always got to throw that around, especially around little points, current breaks, because sometimes they'll school up pretty good around those areas and you can milk them for a handful of fish. And we did that in a couple of areas, about a couple dozen, I'd say, just on that drop shot. Caught a few on the swim jig as well. Did have one bonus frogfish that smoked the swamp lord. Found some areas with duckweed and one absolutely came right through the duckweed, ate the frog, and yeah, a lot of fun. And after that, it kind of slowed down. That tide got really low. It was actually almost unfishable out there with how much grass there is. So decided to make my way towards the marina where we launched, fished some man-made structure. I think we pulled off a couple more on the drop shot, maybe one or two on the frog, and missed one at the end on the frog. But yeah, you know what? Today started out a little challenging, had a little bit of adversity in the morning, but pulled through, got on the water, battled the conditions, and it paid off. So happy to have a day like this, really any day of the year out on the California Delta, catching some numbers, a couple decent ones in the mix, and catching them in a fun way. But guys, that is going to do it for today's day out on the water, out on the California Delta. As always, I thank you for watching, for coming along, and I will see you guys in the next one.